Hello, everybody. Richard here at Calvin Wazoo, where, of course, I've had it in the ear before. And guess what? I am reviving the Genealogy of Music series. So this would make episode 9. I haven't done a video titled The Genealogy of Music since December of 2021. That's how long it's been. And I figured that this would be a topic that would fit under that. The title of the video says, "What the heck is hypnagogic pop?" All right, well, we're going to be talking about someone who is considered the godfather of hypnagogic pop. Someone that I only fairly recently became familiar with. And that's because somebody sent me a bunch of records. Yes, they sent me all these records here by Ariel Pink. So that's what we're going to talk about. And they sent me quite a few records here. And definitely great thanks to that person who sent me completely, unsolicited. But they thought that given my interests in other maybe similar music, they thought I might appreciate Ariel Pink, or at least they wanted to expose me to it. This person's not necessarily a member of the vinyl community, so I'm not going to identify them, but nonetheless, thank you for these records by Ariel Pink. So yeah, he's considered the godfather of hypnagogic pop and chillwave. And these are subgenres that pay homage to nostalgia and musical styles of the past. Ariel Pink is also a major influencer in the lo-fi recording realm. And, I do enjoy some lo-fi music. Given the number of albums that this person sent me, it's taken me a while to get through them all, because lo-fi is one of those musical categories that while I enjoy much of it, it's not something I want to listen to a lot because of the subpar production practices that are employed in it. Sometimes out of necessity, such as the early recordings by Will Toledo and Car Seat Headrest, the numbered recordings, for example, done pretty much out of necessity because that was the equipment and the circumstances they had to deal with. But then there are other bands, perhaps like Dead Ghosts, that have better production equipment and circumstances available to them, but they still tend to record in the lo-fi category. So sometimes, it can work, but a lot of times with lo-fi, you've got people who are deliberately doing the lo-fi, and as a result, they're really subtracting from the music. So a lot, going on here. And Ariel Pink certainly reached a point where he didn't need to do the lo-fi. In the beginning, yeah, that's what he was doing. And yeah, I'll get more into that. And then, but the other part about Ariel Pink is that he comes with some baggage. There's some baggage associated with him that sort of kind of smudges his legacy, even perhaps. So we'll get into that, and I'll get into these individual records shortly. But let's cover a little bit of background about him. All right. So Ariel Pink was born Ariel Marcus Rosenberg. He was born in L.A. and his parents divorced by the time he was 2 years old. So he was mostly raised in Louisiana by his mother, and he was both described by his mother and by himself as being very much a loner and preferring to play alone than with other kids. His mother noticed that that was a very distinct characteristic of his, that he was very content playing by himself, and did not necessarily seek the attention and camaraderie of other kids his age. He was very artistically inclined from the start and was encouraged to dabble in painting, drawing, music to some aspect early on. He showed much clearer affinity, though, for drawing and painting. And then he was also encouraged to do some acting as he was growing up. Now, there was an incident while he was living in Louisiana where he was subjected to some bullying. So his mother sent him to relatives down in Mexico City, which is also where he lost his virginity, sleeping with a Mexican prostitute when he was, I think he was 14 or something like that. But he also then went back and lived with his father in Beverlywood area of Los Angeles. Now, his father was a Harvard-educated gastroenterologist, so we're talking money. And when he was with his father, he ended up going to high school at Beverly Hills High School. So here's, all this background that we're getting from him. And that's when his real musical experimentation began, was when he was in high school. He became obsessed with music creation in his father's garage, with very minimal equipment, both in terms of instruments and recording. It was largely all his recording was done, on a simple cassette recorder player. And he cranked out a lot of music in the from the middle 90s all the way up to the 2000s. And he really had no intention of releasing any of that material. He was really hyper focused into creating all these different songs, pop songs, really, to a degree. Reading about this is about when I started thinking that Ariel is on the spectrum someplace, and some of his other behavior later in life really reinforced the idea that he's on the Asperger's spectrum somewhere. That's just my impression. So in 1997, he entered the California Institute of Arts, where he was going to be studying painting, I believe. But it's also where he started to connect with other musically inclined people, and also kind of stepped up his lo-fi recording of his creations. But he dropped out of art school, and then he ended up living in a Hindu ashram, where, according to what he told Pitchfork in an article, he brought in heroin, smoked so much pot, blasted music, lived in filth, brought all these fucking weirdos in, played and recorded music all night, and never had a problem with those people. So, there's this chaos, perhaps even an almost lack of structure going on in his life. Conclude what you will from, what I've told you already about his life. It was probably, when he was in this ashram, this was probably his most prolific period in terms of his album releases. All right. Then in 2004, his half-sister, who was 16 at the time, suffered this traumatic injury in a car crash that resulted in permanent brain damage. And he just stopped recording, stopped making music. And this lasted for a couple of years. But then he signed with the label Paw Tracks, which was the band Animal Collective's record label that I believe they even started themselves. And then he started releasing a lot of not just new material, but a lot of this earlier material. In fact, nearly half of his material that was released after 2004 was initially recorded going back to 1999. All that stuff that he had created with, at the time, no intention of ever releasing it. Now it's being released on a variety of these records. And now we'll get into later some of the more problematic issues that are associated with Pink. And start talking about his records. Okay, so now the first record in chronological order of the ones that I had been given is this compilation called Underground. And this contains material that's mostly taken from his original stereo cassette recordings from about 2001 to 2002, but that's according to the Obi strip here. But there are other sources I found that say that a lot of this material dates back to 1999. So there was other material brought in. It's a double album. There's a lot of short songs. There's some longer songs. And there's definitely that lo-fi quality, to the recordings. They're very primitive. And given the circumstances, when he was making them, and he just ended up, with very little mixing or remastering, putting it out on vinyl. I do have a needle drop from this record to kind of give you a sense of what he was producing. The track is titled Ghost Town. So yeah, you've got a kind of a sense of what we're talking about. There's quirky pop. They're pop songs, but then lyrically he strays into all different kinds of areas, and he certainly had some influences, musical influences, that you can hear with a lot of the material. He was big time listening to The Cure. He had listened to Beach Boys. You can hear influences of Frank Zappa. He has even cited the industrial band Throbbing Gristle as having an influence on his creations. One of his very early releases that had initially only been available on CDR was this one here. He also had releases under the moniker Ariel Pink's Haunted Graffiti. And this is Fast Forward, which he made it available on CDR in 2001, but the official release didn't happen until 2010. And this has got a lot of musical weirdness in it that is, similar to early Mothers of Invention, and also a little bit like the Butthole Surfers. It's, again, quirky, poppy, Decidedly lo-fi. We're talking decidedly lo-fi cassette culture in terms of production values. What I'm going to play for you from this is the song The List, my favorite song, is what it's called. It's got this catchy repetition to it and some interesting chord progressions. Give that a listen. So this is a double album. So there's, again, a lot of material on this, but some more of that, this quirkiness that I've been talking about. And also the other thing is, you can start getting a feel for this hypnagogic style, in that he takes musical styles of various pop groups from the 60s, from psychedelic music, etc. And then he throws in, he's got the hooks. He understands the hooks. He understands the composition of these songs, but then he just kind of throws in these, at times, meandering lyrics that seem to lack focus, but at the same time hold this bizarre, endearing charm, I guess you might be able to say. And the next album that I was given, and that came out officially in 2006, although, again, he had recorded the material in 2002, it was officially released in 2004, this one. And the recording, this is a lot of material that he was recording at the California Institute of Art from roughly September of 1999 to April of 2000. The Doldrums is the name of the release. So the official release didn't happen until 2004. Again, he's sticking to the lo-fi style of recording. And there are some really interesting compositions in here. But, it's that at times it's like the lo-fi is like, why can't you get a more highly produced of some of these songs? Because they're good. There are some good songs here. It's kind of like, in a way, I can draw an analogy to Frank Zappa and how he would create these incredibly complex and intricate compositions, musical compositions, and then he would, for lack of a better purpose, mar them with these absurd titles and add prurient lyrics, to this absolutely fantastic music, which sometimes it worked, it was okay, but other times it was just kind of like, it's almost like you're deliberately throwing yourself under the bus. And I sometimes feel that way when listening to Pink's music. And so there are some really good songs, but damn it, why not just take some time and produce something more, more polished? And the needle drop I'm going to play for you from this release is the title song, The Doldrums. So it is, I guess with that particular song, the lo-fi quality to it kind of works, but yeah, it after a while, it kind of wears on you, and I just find myself wishing that I could hear something that was, better produced. Now, in 2006, that was the official release of House Arrest, which is Ariel Pink's Haunted Graffiti. This was another moniker that he released material under. It was recorded in 2002, but then when he got with the record label, with the Animal Collective, that's when he started releasing a lot of this backlog of material that he had. It's a non-linear album with songs that jump from style to style. And the lyrics at times are best described as scatterbrained, really. The needle drop I have from this one is called Hardcore Pops Are Fun. So there's this quirky pop sentimentality, going on. It's interesting. I mean, I enjoy it, but I'm not necessarily going to go back and listen to it all that often because there are songs that the clarity of production is much better, and those would be songs that I would like to listen to, again. But so much of the material, while interesting, I would prefer probably to hear it live, where maybe it isn't going to be lo-fi, if you know what I mean. Then also released in 2006, also that was originally recorded in 2002, is Loverboy. So this is another part of the sort of archive series, also part of the Haunted Graffiti moniker that he was releasing under. So House Arrest and Loverboy sort of are companion pieces, recorded at the same time as House Arrest. This is one of my better liked releases, despite the fact that there's still a lot of that lo-fi going on. But the songs are better, and the songwriting is better. Even some of the songs have a decent sound to them, despite being lo-fi. But yeah, man, I just wish they were more highly produced, because it's kind of a buzzkill at times when you're listening to, a good song, and it sounds like it sounds like you're listening to it on a shitty cassette player. The needle drop from this one I'm going to play for you is called I Don't Need Enemies. The other thing that he did is with his appearance, he often would try to disguise himself, not appear just as himself, but always like something else. There was always this sentiment of a charade going on with Pink, which has a lot to do, I think, with what I'm going to talk about later with him. Now, other record that was gifted to me is this 2014 release, which you notice, compared to the other albums, this is a very different cover, and it's got the embossed like glitter letters that were put on here, and it's called Pom Pom. So it's a 2014 release. So this one doesn't have a connection to earlier recorded material. This was something, put together and produced in 2014. And as a result, it's not quite as lo-fi. It does have some better production than the other releases. And it does continue to retain his quirkiness and almost childlike quality with a lot of the music. It does show much more affinity to the style of music that you would get from early Mothers of Invention. Some of the songs, though, they just don't make any sense at all. I mean, there's one called Dinosaur Care Bears that starts with this total gibberish, and then it slips into like a reggae rhythm with the repeated lines of "You're no good, you're no good," So a reviewer said that this record is the best of what makes Pink's music fascinating and frustrating, because how it just like zooms all over the place. No real cohesive theme or thread holding or concept holding the recordings together. It's just really, really goes over the place. Some of the more interesting songs, though, include one called Black Ballerina, which is the tale of Shotgun Billy, okay? It's the tale of Shotgun Billy's trip to an LA strip club, and One-Eyed Willie takes over. But the needle drop I'm going to play for you is the song Picture Me Gone. Picture Me Gone is actually a pretty profound song, because the basis of the song is this idea that when we die, there's nothing left behind except our children. That we have this generation now where everything, including family photos or memorabilia, is all electronically stored in our social media accounts. And when we die, then it's all gone. There's no physical media anymore. And we're not just talking about like physical media for music, but physical media of like family photos, photos from trips, just memorabilia of the people that we've been with. There is no concrete media for us to latch onto. And so when we die, it's all gone. Very, very interesting concept in that song. And it's a very good song, despite the lo-fi production. Then the last one that I got from the gift here is Odditties and Sodomies Volume 2, which was released in 2019. Again, this is another compilation. There are good songs on here, but again, the lo-fi production is a detraction at times. The side 2 opener is a really good example. That's called The World Is Yours, and it's lush and it's big, but that lo-fi production just kind of reduces and confines the sound. I just wish it would be set free, because it's that kind of song that really needs that. But then I guess if we go back to the concept of the get that hypnagogic pop music, it's a throwback of nostalgia. So I suppose in some respects, the lo-fi quality puts it in that experiential realm of being from the past. So our recollections of the past are not necessarily as refined and precise as the moment when we lived through it. It's always going to fade a little bit and become a lo-fi memory, I guess is the way to put it. And so in that respect, it works with what he is doing, though I still wish we would still have better production with some of these songs. But the needle drop I have from this one is The World Is Yours. Well, that's the music of Ariel Pink. And, we've gone through some of his background. And I've also mentioned the fact that he does strike me as someone who is on the Asperger's spectrum. Now, there were some significant controversies associated with him. In 2015, he was being interviewed by the LA Weekly, and he said that he was grateful that he had been bullied because, quote, it taught him to be thick-skinned, and he commented that, quote, anyone who is crying about police brutality or victimization as an adult needs to stop it and realize the privileges we have in this country. So, I mean, sorry, this white guy going off on this topic is not very becoming. And it really does kind of exemplify a tone deafness that, to me, again, supports the notion that he's on the spectrum. Now, he's also self-described as having no religion at all, despite his Jewish upbringing. And then in the Jewish magazine, Heb magazine, in an interview, he had said that he really disliked people who boasted of their Jewish pride, and he called them, quote, fucking stupid. So he was very, very blunt with some of his criticism of others and of society and of culture in general. In a Pitchfork article, he had a quote, he was quoted to say, we're all from the same DNA strand, you know? It's like potatoes are our brothers. Yeah, so he had this other reputation of where he would just say these bizarre things. And so was he saying them to get attention or what? And again, I go back to, it just strikes me as someone on the spectrum that he said that, I believe, in sincerity, but I could be wrong. Politically, he has seemed very unanchored. He has said in other articles that he was comfortable with whatever direction the country went. So he was, when Hillary Clinton was running for president, he said he was fine with Hillary winning if she won, and he was fine with who did win. And then in an interview with Interview magazine, he had said that he doesn't vote. He doesn't have any party affiliation. He doesn't believe in political parties. And he will align himself with whomever is in charge. So again, very lacking in any kind of philosophical conviction or anything. He just very opportunistic, he seems to be in his thinking, just which to me again supports this idea that of him, you know, being on the spectrum. Now, for a while, he was saying that he held to conspiracies that the 2020 election was tampered with, and it was the Democrats and the Chinese working together against the other candidate. And in an interview in 2021 with Variety, he said, I'm so gay for Trump, I would let him fuck me in the butt. That's, you know, that was in 2021. And then in 2021, he also went on Tucker Carlson's show, and where he then said that he supported Biden and that he believed that Trump had legitimately lost. But this was his appearance in the Tucker Carlson show occurred after he was spotted and admitted to attending the January 6th insurrection, although he said that he did not participate in the storming of the Capitol. But he was there. He was there at the Trump's rally. He was there to show support for Trump at that time. And so it looked like he went to Tucker Carlson's show to rehab his image, which, that's not a very smart move. And he did talk about during that show how his career was ruined by the fact that it became evident that he was there at the insurrection, and he was dropped by record labels. Nobody wants to do anything with him or anything. So, but hey, the consequences of your actions can be swift and not necessarily what you were anticipating. So there's the baggage issue that goes with Ariel Pink. In my own take on it, he's not in a category that I would put, for example, the Japanese artist Cornelius or Ted Nugent. Cornelius made absolutely fantastic music, in my opinion. But he was a horrible person who never felt any contrition or never expressed any contrition over the fact that he used to viciously abuse mentally disabled people at his school when he was in high school and also in first form, whatever they call it, college, I suppose, before he went in, university. I mean, horrible abuse. And he only acknowledged that he did that and tried to offer some kind of apology when the government of Japan had picked him to be a representative for this big cultural event. But then as soon as it came out, what he had done with the abuse of disabled people, the government dropped him right away. And and as I said, he never really truly, as far as I could find in any articles, owned up to it in any kind of form of contrition. And then, of course, Ted Nugent. I mean, I loved his early work with the Amboy Dukes, and that first solo album is just an absolutely incredible album. But I can't listen to it anymore because he has just turned into a poisonous POS. I mean, he's, Kid Rock is not far behind. So I don't put Ariel Pink in that category. I think of Ariel Pink, his problematic issues of being more in the realm of someone like Eric Clapton, who has plenty of problematic issues, but I still listen to his music, at least up until that first solo album. I mean, after that, when we get to the later 70s, his music no longer really interests me and no longer appeals to me. But that early stuff with the Yardbirds, with Cream, with Blind Faith, and Derek and the Dominoes, and then his first solo album, and also with Bonnie and Delaney, that's all great stuff, and I still enjoy that. And then Van Morrison. I still occasionally listen to Van Morrison's earlier material, and I love it. But yeah, he's kind of turned into a douche-waffle as well. But that doesn't stop me from listening to his music. His behavior and his perspective is, to me, not so poisonous that it ruins his music. Whereas Cornelius and Ted Nugent, they have poisoned the well for their music, for me, with what they've done. So Ariel Pink, yeah, he created the situation that he found himself in, and then kind of felt helpless afterward. without really, again, taking very much responsibility for some of the things he said. And I go back to, I think a lot of, and I might be wrong, but I think a lot of it is he's potentially on the spectrum, and he was just unaware of the social consequences of some of the things that he said or did. There you have it. That's my take on Ariel Pink. And I would love to hear from any of you if you've ever listened to much Ariel Pink, or give it a try. Look up his stuff on Spotify or even in YouTube. If you're not a fan of lo-fi production, you're not going to be a fan of Ariel Pink. If you do enjoy some lo-fi production, or you at least can tolerate it, hey, give a listen and then share your thoughts in the Down Under. Love to get your comments. I really do appreciate them. You can find me also on Instagram, where my handle is newsdude76. That's NEWZDUDE76. And I also have a Facebook page called Calvin Wazoo, where I post the videos that I make here on YouTube, as well as other music-related videos and content articles for you. And so you can follow me there as well. Hope you enjoyed that. Give it a thumbs up, please, because it does help with circulation of the content. Even if you're already subscribed, a thumbs up is nice. I appreciate that. And as always, remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.